Hi ladies and gentlemen, we are back on K2 Born. I'm Tanguy Jacopin and we are on the BRICS series. More specifically, we are on the BRICS Summit and about the ability to generate a new agenda thanks to these countries that are always more powerful. So when we are talking about BRIC or the BRICS, well, we need to say initially we were talking about the BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India and China. Because these were the countries that Jim O'Neill, the chief global economist at Goldman Sachs, an investment bank, was saying that this country will overtake the G6 countries that are formed by Italy, France, Germany, Japan, and US. So what does this mean? Well, it means that basically these countries, from an economic point of view, they've been growing at a huge pace because they've been moving. Before the financial crisis, they were representing 50% of the worldwide growth. Well, it's just amazing, but with the crisis, obviously, it moved up to 70%. 2013, a bit lower, and due to this, still uncertainties for 2014 and 2015. So, but you'll say, hey, but there was an S, isn't it? Yeah, the S is for South Africa. And it's true that South Africa was not originally a member of this group, but you need to say that it was an economic concept. Jim was working in an investment bank, so it was logical that he care more about return on investment, return equity, return capital employed, than on political variables. And in that sense, what happened is that basically the BRIC countries were BRIC without S. Were just amazingly surprised to see the success that they got with the acronym and to the flows of investment that went to these countries, and they say, wow, this is great. But there's an opportunity at the political level. So they generate as a first move to go towards BRICS Summit, and this is the reason why they were originally 4 at the BRICS Summit. But keeping aside Africa from a political point of view and saying we're only interested in your raw material was not a good one. Was not a good image. So they say, let's add one of the main partner of Africa. They decided that it would be South Africa. Some say because to put an N, they would bring instead of BRICS. So it was they couldn't rely anymore on the weight of the acronym. But more seriously, at the moment where it was designed, it seems that there were more opportunity in South Africa. Now, with the evolution of the country, even if this is a country that I love, it's fantastic. Cape Town is beautiful. Stellenbosch, Pinot Noir is fantastic. But at this point, it has to be said that maybe Nigeria would offer some more stability. Okay, so now if we go to this point, you can say, okay, so this was at the end of last BRICS Summit. It was the 5th one in Durban, South Africa. And Mohamed Singh, Jinping, Zuma, Dilma, and Putin. So what can we say when we're talking about BRIC diplomacy? Well, we need to say that first, it's an alternative. They don't manage to have enough power, enough grip in some of the major institutions. You say not all of them, and this is one of the major issues. You've got contradiction amongst the BRIC members, because 2 are already members with voting right and veto right above all, Russian Federation and China, and they are not so eager to share their power with Brazil and India, that are members that are really eager to move in. South Africa is already happy to be in the BRIC, so they are not pushing that much. And they want to have some more power as well in IMF and in World Bank, because they want to say that we represent a huge percentage of the world growth, we represent an always more growing percentage of the worldwide GDP, and therefore this has to be acknowledged on the public sphere. So it's a way to say, first, you've got two groups, say typically I would say G7. On the other hand, you've got the BRIC, and just to see how it's going to balance in the upcoming year. And as well, there's there would be the rest of the world, the other emerging countries, and it's a way just to have a platform just to say that they're defending them. Okay, so we'll see that what happened is that I already evoked one contradiction. The other major contradiction is that China is much bigger and is growing much faster than the rest of the four partners, and in that sense there's some willingness to do business with China, but not among the other partners. And this is a bit the problem. If and it is quite logical, because if you contrast power of China growing at a rate of 8%. In terms of population, China and India, you would say they can be balanced, but GDP per capita, we are between almost at 6,000 USD per capita in China, less than 2,000 in India. Major difference. And on the other hand, you've got these three countries that are in South Africa, Brazil, and Russia that are already above 10,000. So they've got different queries. So it's difficult to harmonize an agenda. And if we look at this summit in themselves, what happened? So major issue compared to 2013, it's the arrival of Modi, BJP, so we would be ending the domination of the Congress in India. So what's going to happen? Lots of uncertainty. If it does such a good job at the economic level than it did in Gujarat, it would be great, hoping that there won't be the same tension that it existed in Gujarat in 2002, where many Muslims were killed. And the influence of Modi at this point was not so clear to remain neutral. Okay, so basically when we're talking about the past summit, what happened? Well, the difference of many institutions, it's an informal character. No charter, no secretariat, no fund to finance activities. Just to say that it's based on the willingness of its government. First summit was held in Russia, in Yekaterinburg, and what they've been doing, and this is quite interesting, is that basically they are trying to consolidate and to build some civil servants that are specialized for these issues. So on top of the horizontal issues based on economic, financial, safety issues, security, food security, agriculture, and energy, you've got some academic forum. For instance, there was one that was held in March 2014 in Rio de Janeiro, and just to exchange and to work on different round tables, just to define the agenda and to see where it would be possible to reach some agreement as fast as possible. So in that sense, what is I would say is the most important issue at this point is that they are going to create their own development bank. So we'll see how it's going to work compared to IMF and above all World Bank. They are going to create, because they have the most important reserves at the moment. So if they were suffering any crisis of liquidity, what can they do? So they're moving to have a contingent reserve arrangement. They want to, and this is something that can be super powerful. They've got lots of state-owned companies by opposition to situation in industrialized countries, where in the best of the cases they've got golden share. Here, well, I'm going to maybe give some example. The banking sector, for instance, in Brazil, so they've got Banco do Brasil in China. The four major banks have well, the government as a state. In India, it's similar. You've got always, if we take the banking sector, you've got always some private companies, but you've got always some state-owned companies in this. And this is the reason why it's you've got far more opportunities to manage a counter-cyclical policy when you've got crisis in these countries. And if they manage to themselves, well, it's just amazing. And yes, so this is quite interesting. Well, if you look at the agenda, you can see it's still too vague. They need to go and define more clearly their issues. But at least you can see that you got lots of interest to let's say, to not to be as dependent as they used to from industrialized countries. So, as a conclusion, what can we say? Well, 6th summit in Rome just shows that it's moving on. Inviting nation Argentina. They are trying to elaborate an alternative political agenda, but there are still too many towards. To a certain extent, and this will be the difficulty, that they will have to choose the place that will be the base for their diplomacy. I think it will have to be a neutral country, but they will be forced to do it, because initially this was a palliative, and this is the reason why they have some difficulty to create their own agenda. The emergency was not so high. On top of that, was just to say, hey, we've got some power. We don't manage to have a seat as it corresponds to our economic power. So things are going to change, but they're going too slow. So, and the other risk that is that may happen concerning all these issues concerning regional integration to improve competitiveness, is that there's too much noise. And in that sense, it would be really important for the countries to choose the ally. And as well, from a company perspective, it would be really important that you bet on the right regional integration. Is it, according to you, better to make a bet on a free trade area, such as North American Free Trade Association, or common market, as EU or Mercosur? This will be a key issue, because as soon as this country will go and move on, well, they will have to decide where they might go. When we look at the specificity of these countries, you can see that it won't be easy to move forward. A free trade agreement might be a first solution, but there are really lots of doubt. So at this point, bilateral relation seems to be clear to make an agenda on the possibility of what's going to happen. Okay? Thank you very much. It was Tanguy Jacopin on K2Born. Bye-bye.